Hey, what's up guys, Metal571 here today. We're going to take a look at the AKG Q701 headphones. So let's start out with the physical aspects as I usually do. These are a reference headphone designed in Austria, and they're mostly made of plastic. The one thing that people will not pick up on immediately is what's going on with this headband. If you've never seen AKG headphones before, they have a self-adjusting headband. And that means that you basically, to put them on, you just do this, let it sit over your head, and then there you go. It adjusts and keeps tight on whatever head size you have very easily. The only thing that might get uncomfortable for some people would be these nubs in here, but they are actually pretty soft. I'm not sure if you can see this, but I can actually press on them and they sort of come back. They're basically memory foam. So they're really not that bad. They do leave a little bit of an impression in your head over a couple of hours of wearing them, but in general, I really haven't had much of a problem in terms of comfort, though some people might, and you can always cover that with foam if you need to. I don't know if I have a larger head, but I actually have to extend this almost all the way, in my experience, when I put these on. That's just the way they are. Maybe something of note, if you have an extremely large head, you may want to try these in store before actually purchasing them. So the ear cups are very big, really big headphone, maybe even larger than it looks on camera. Like I could even pull my 880s out here and you can see that it is enormous, huge. I'll go over why I actually prefer these over the 880s a little bit later, and why I'm going to be keeping them and selling the 880s. Also of note is I have a mod mic mount right here. And that's really awesome. I use that with my mod mic. I have a review of that from before. So I use these for gaming, music, everything. These are the Quincy Jones edition, and as such there's some branding on the headband here that you can see. That was actually upside down, sorry. Quincy Jones. The regular K701. These are based off of just say AKG on the headband. And that's how that is. The ear cups have a very nice, huge amount of padding. My ears are big and they never touch the inside of these ear pads. On top of that, the back is thicker than the front, and that leads to a very nice, very comfortable, and hugely spacious experience that never gets tiring on your ears. The velour isn't as soft as the DT880s. It's not really pillow soft. It's a little bit harder, but I think I actually like it better because it doesn't deform over time and let your ears sink in and potentially have the inside of the lobe touch in here. They keep their shape well, and I think that's actually an advantage. The ear cups in the 880 end up being shallow after a while. So that's how that works, and that pretty much covers it for physical, except for the fact that these have a nice mini XLR connector, so you can connect any mini XLR cable to them. This is the included green. All three colors of the Q701s, the white, black, and the green, come with a green cable. Actually, two cables. This is the 10-foot straight, and there's also a 20-foot straight. But any mini XLR to 3.5mm jack will work with them, so you can purchase aftermarket ones if you want, for example, a 3-foot cable for walking around with. I don't recommend these for walking around, but if you wanted to, you could. Alright, so what kind of headphones are these? These are reference headphones, meaning they are tuned to be quite neutral, quite flat, quite true to the source, much like the DT880s that I've reviewed before, and much like the HD600s. Now, these are open headphones. They are fully open, meaning when you play music through them, it will leak a lot. And as such, you don't want to be walking around with these or use them on the bus. Not only do they not block sound, but they also don't keep sound of your music that you're playing in them within the ear cup. It leaks out everywhere. Everyone can hear what you're listening to. The advantage is a massive sound stage, which sounds like there are sounds coming in like a 3D, coming around you in 3D, basically. And it's a really cool effect, so you can really hear the stereo imaging if a song has been mixed with those kind of effects in it. It'll come out a lot more than, for example, closed headphones. What about the sound? Alright, here's where things get a little bit interesting. The AKG Q701s have a nice lively character to them. They're not quite as flat as either the DT880s or the HD600, but they still are well within about, I'd say, about 5 decibel across the entire audible frequency range of being flat. And that's what really mattered to me. I've found that over time, I'm starting to prefer headphones that are not absolutely neutral, but rather have colorations that are pleasing, but not so pleasing as to destroy the neutrality of the overall headphone sound. And that's exactly what these are. So the Q701s have a very flat bass. It goes very deep. One misconception that's very common about these is they have no bass. That couldn't be further from the truth, but simply if you're used to the bass from Beats, these will sound awful to you at first. But if you get used to them, you'll realize that the bass is accurate. That's the best part about these. It's accurate. You can hear it, and it goes really deep into the sub bass, and it's all there. All the frequencies are there the way they should be. They don't blast out at you, but they're there, and they're there correctly. And I like that. The bass on these really does sound right. It doesn't sound recessed. It sounds right. And that's not just my opinion, but, well, it is my opinion, but at the same time, I've heard the DT80s, I've heard the HD600s. The bass is pretty flat in all 3 headphones. These are not recessed as people say they might be. At least the Q701s certainly aren't. K701s might have a little bit less bass, I believe, but still, the character is the same. It's just flat. The mids are very interesting. AKG has a house sound, is what it's called, and they tend to emphasize 2 kilohertz a little bit, which gives a very present presentation, if you will, to the mids. They're there. They're a little more in your face than some other headphones, but at the same time, they're not harsh or grating or anything. They add a power to electric guitar, and they add a liveliness and a presence to vocals, acoustic instruments, that kind of thing. The Sennheiser snobs will tell you that the mids sound like crap because they're not absolutely flat. And yeah, okay, fine. You could argue that if you really want to, because there is a pretty smooth yet very noticeable spike around 2 kilohertz. That's about 4 or 5 decibels. You can see that on Tyle Hertzon's graphs on Inner Fidelity. But I actually really like it, and it gives a really nice forward presentation to the mids without being sharp. Because it's not 4K we're emphasizing here, we're emphasizing 2K. So it's a nice presence without being too sharp. Going through a little higher, the treble on these is definitely very revealing. Very revealing. I actually found these more detailed than the DT880. The treble spike at 10K, 9K, somewhere around there, is less than that on the DT880. And that's what I think reveals more of the very upper treble. So you got a lot of detail, and a lot of just beautiful, lush sound going on there in the treble, without being overly sharp either. Now, when you first get them, you might think they're a little trebly, fine. They're honest. That's what it is. It's really that they're honest, and most pop music is going to be mixed in a pretty crappy way compared to older recordings, and they might sound a little sharp to you if you try to listen to top 40 stuff on these, especially at first before they burn in. People do say a lot about them burning in. I have to talk about that. I haven't really noticed them burn in much. These take a very, very, very long time to burn. I've had these for about 2 weeks now, so they've been used heavily, but I still don't think they have more than maybe 100 to 200 hours on them. So people say they really don't reach a final sound till 500 hours. Whatever. I think they sounded great even right out of the box. Maybe the bass was a little bit less and it came out a little more, but other than that, I haven't really noticed a huge sonic difference. The other colorations I've already discussed. The mids are very flat except for a presence at 2K. The treble's very flat and very, very well extended, yet the spike doesn't hide the detail. The T880 spike is a little bit more, not a little bit more, but a lot more present. Without being sharp, but it does hide the very upper treble detail, 10 to 20K, whereas these, you can hear it a little bit better because the spike is not as in your face. But they do have a mid coloration. Some people call it plasticky. I just call it beautiful. It sounds great to me, and the bass it's very flat. It's very there. It's correct. And I really like that. The best part about these, they make them very exciting, not just from the frequency response point of view. They are more exciting than the DT880s or HD600 if you ask me, but the soundstage is enormous, huge, huge. The largest I've heard, definitely. Some people will call the soundstage on these AKGs too wide, unnaturally wide. I don't really agree. I mean, I haven't heard the HD600 in that kind of detail yet. But if you're if you're a Sennheiser snob, you're probably gonna think, "Hey, this is just wrong." And maybe you're right. Maybe it is a little unnatural, but in my experience, it allows for a hell of an experience. It's awesome. I love the width and the depth that these give you. These are the kind of features that are absolutely make these worth the price, and you don't get this kind of amazing out-of-head experience and forwardness and lusciousness to the sound. You never get this kind of thing in other headphones in this price range, that's for sure. I bought these brand new at $190. It was amazingly cheap. These have gotten so cheap, and they are amazingly worth the money now. When they first existed in the K701, I believe they were over $300 easily. So these are an incredible deal. The Q701s are fantastic headphones. They're lively. They're not really harsh. They're honest. They're flat enough, and they give a huge sense of stage. A sound stage is just amazing. And they're comfortable for me. If they're not comfortable for you, you can always wrap the headband in foam or something like that. Or you can get the K712 Pro, which has got a flat headband. A little more expensive, though. They are made in Austria, though. These are made in China, as I said earlier. So that's pretty much everything about the Q701. The last part is, these are difficult to drive, yes. Don't let the impedance fool you. They are pretty difficult to drive, but strangely enough, they sound fantastic right out of my Zonar DG. Sorry. And then I'm sure an amp would improve them further, but they really sound like a whole nother level of headphone compared to anything I've heard, though, such far. Right out of the sound card. And they get louder than my 250 ohm biodynamics, for sure, at least about 3 dB louder at the same setting. So I don't know what people are talking about, how they have to crank up everything to get these to be loud. And not really. I can drive these off my phone if I want. They're really not that bad, but they're definitely harder to drive than their impedance would suggest. I believe they're 60 something ohm. I looked that up. They're not. I think they're 60 ohm, but impedance and everything. Sensitivity is also important. But yeah, that's the AKG Q701. Hopefully this helps people. I try to give a more detailed explanation of the sound than most reviewers do, because I'm quite well versed in what flat should be. I mean, I think the HD600 is deserving of that title as one of the world's flattest headphones, and I've heard it before, so I know what things are supposed to sound like and what sounds right and wrong. And these are really exciting sounding headphones that are very involving and excellent for both FPS gaming and excellent for music alike of any genre. But they have some colorations that make them exciting, and they have a very, very big soundstage as well. But it's not big when it doesn't need to be, in my experience. And they can be driven by not so powerful stuff. They're not amazingly impossible to drive, and they're at a really good price point. You would never even come close to this with Beats. This is a whole nother league, entirely different league. When you step up to AKG Q701s, you're stepping up to one of the best headphones in the world in this price range, period. Thanks, guys. I hope this helped, and take care.